So overall, I I feel like so. First of all, see, I main mid, and I
Nice. Yep.
also my other role is support. Um, I played. I got basically to like plat four. Doesn't mean much, but I'd made it after maybe. I think it was 2 years ago. One and a
Yeah.
half, 2 years ago. But that was mainly playing support because I just wasn't feeling mid at the time. But now that I'm back, I haven't played in a little while. Really, just the past month, I just hopped back in, and I there's a couple of spots where I know I have issues,
Yeah.
and some things I feel like I know how to fix. I just need to employ the actual things to fix it, but some things I don't know, and it's just to
Okay.
think of not having the knowledge. So the main things I would say is um, one, I know that my champion pool is holding me back to a degree. I'm almost a Zoe one trick,
Okay.
um, but I also play Nico for some matchups that I just can't play with Zoe,
Hmm.
and I've started to try Ari as well as something that I feel like I can probably first pick if
Sure.
need be. Um, but I know that something like Zoe and Nico, it's not really the best champs for like I feel like even if I get a lead, sometimes like I can do really well and carry my team on something like Zoe, but it's I can't do it as consistently as I could something like I don't know like Yone or something or like
Hmm.
Silas, something like that. So I think that's one thing that holds me back. Second, I feel like over the years, like I've gotten better at being a little bit more confident in my plays and like kind of just sending it sometimes when you really need to, which is what kind of support taught me. But I still feel like, especially during melee matchups, like if I'm playing against, especially something like Diana, something that can engage on me, I feel like I have a lot of trouble dealing with them during the laning phase.
Hmm.
Like Diana, like Fizz, um, what's another one? Um, oh my god, I'm blanking. Like
It's all
Zed,
good.
but
I
Zed
think I
is yeah, but
yeah, I think I catch the gist here. There's a few like maybe overarching concepts that come to mind initially, and maybe let me know if this resonates with you. It's that
mhm.
I think what you're looking for is like that micro level decision making. First off,
Yeah,
there's that's where it starts when you're thinking about champions like Ari, Zoe, Nico. I mean, well, let's level set though, right? You shouldn't tie yourself to winning and losing the game as to whether you played well, right? Like you can play well and you can still lose a game. And you can play
sure.
well, you can dominate your lane, but there's so many other metrics that you want to consider
Hmm.
when you're like learning champions
Yeah.
or learning matchups, right? Yeah. So um and especially on those melee matchups that you were just mentioning, the first thing that I notice in a lot of my students is like the you have to always be asking yourself a couple questions when those moments are happening, and it's around a lot of like wave state management. Like, is this a situation that I should be putting myself into? Like, how did I end up here? Asking yourself that question sometimes helps to
Hmm.
identify that. If you have a VOD that you have that we could review,
Hmm.
maybe we can get into some of the specifics and I can see
Yeah.
like what you're doing, what you're playing. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
specifically tried to find more like melee centric matchups.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, because one thing in the past that like because I actually had a little bit of help from just a friend of mine,
cool,
and he's like it's like
nice,
Diamond or whatever, but like
nice.
he taught me a little bit about because one of my big issues before
Mm-hmm.
big issues was not really knowing what to back and when not to
Mm,
back and things like that.
okay.
And understanding like okay like and when I need to push a wave before I try to roam somewhere. I need to push a wave before I try to like push one wave and I have one thing I can do based off of that. Like
Yeah,
I can't push a wave and do like three things at once, or I'm starting to lose XP. I'm losing gold, things like that.
yeah. let's watch a replay. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot of like nuanced, details we can go into. Generally, if we have a lot of time, we can talk about like specific elements like XP tracking, wave setup,
hmm
tethering, all that kind of stuff that play into that. But let's just watch a replay and
sure.
see what we see. Yeah, we can go from
I'm
there.
opening up one right
Yeah, it'd be
now.
best if you could just stream it here. Yeah.
Yep. Give me one sec.
Okay.
You see it?
I do. Sweet. Let's see.
Okay.
And before we get into the game itself,
Sure.
can you open up the scoreboard? And then also, can you double click on your character? Yeah, I think that should open up. Okay, perfect. And you see on the left there's like this little triangle that opens up next to your movement speed on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you click on that too? Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So, I mean, when you're thinking about mid lane, everything is like it's a bit theoretical. Things start at level 1, how you evaluate the
hmm
matchup and the runes. So, if you want to talk me through that,
hmm
why did you choose the runes you chose, and what are you thinking about
Sure.
going into this level 1?
Okay. So for me, I actually only recently started trying to use Airy when I'm into matchups. I feel like I can poke out my opponent more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I looked at like more higher level Zoes and like more like gameplay of that, and it seems like they're running Airy when it comes to matchups that they know they can poke in versus at least nor the normal electrocute. So one thing I have to understand is making the most value I can out of that. Whenever I play with electrocute, especially like when I'm looking for trades and whatnot, being mindful of when electrocute timer is on and off. That's another thing I try to keep in mind. In terms of, I guess, like the level 1, I know Diana usually goes for, um, I think it's her Q, whichever the one is the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that I don't know the specific cooldown on it, but I think it's somewhere around the 5 to 8 seconds, I think. So I know, when she throws that, I have a good window to try to get poke on her because she can't, jump on me with that unless she hits me with that, right? Um, and I think that's my general thoughts. Would be at this moment.
Yeah. So I think that's fair. I think to help with the airy versus electrocute choice, it's it's a bit more than just poking at a lane. It's also thinking about like going into the mid game and the late game. What's the better rune choice
hmm
here, right? Like, can you do much with electrocute in this game? When I think electrocute on Zoe, I'm looking to maybe one shot a carry.
hmm
Yeah. And Airy may or may not do the same, later on. But
hmm
in this game, for example, I think Airy is the right choice, and the main reason is kind of what you said, but also because later on, there's not that many one shot targets. You're not gonna be able to one shot Diana. You're not gonna be able to one shot Ribbon. You probably won't be able to one shot Pantheon. Maybe Nidalee, and Kaisa is kind of slippery, right? She has cleanse. So
hmm
I do like the area choice here. The second thing to think about is like, what is your team play style? Your team is
hmm
also very heavy on the dive, right? You've got Pike, you've got
hmm
Vi, you've got Aatrox who are just going to go in and give you all of this space to like play your
hmm
team fight the way you want to. So that airy poke, I mean, again, it can work. It's just a matter of deciding how you think you're gonna want to play that mid game phase out.
hmm
Anyways, let's start, and then we could
Sure.
see how things go.
Do you want to speed it up
Yeah,
to start off or not?
let's get to lane. Yeah.
Sure. Oh, I should probably. Oops. Uh,
And you went Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter, right? Is that
yeah.
okay?
All right. Uh,
Want to talk me through that little bit really quickly?
one thing is am I tripping thinking Relentless Blood is
Taste
that
of
the one that gives the? movement speed or the item?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
relentless gives you movement speed, and then
Okay,
taste
yeah,
of
okay.
blood heals you when you auto.
hmm Okay. So mainly, yeah. So I go for split, but
Nice.
one second. Let me go to. Okay. Um, wait, let me just pause it for a sec. It's hard for me to think of
I know
both at
you're
once.
good. Yeah,
Sorry.
there's a lot.
Uh, so taste of blood. Normally, it's usually a choice between two things. It's either going like taste of blood and keep forgetting the name, ravenous or relentless. Sorry, or biscuits and something else. I forget what I usually run,
Cosmic
but it's
Insight.
usually a pick between those two. Normally, I just honestly, it's more of just like a standard thing because I know like I sometimes will get poked from her or like
Mm.
taste of blood just kind of keeps me in the lane a little bit and like relentless. Just the movement speed is really great on Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it keeps, especially like kind of mid game skirmishes and stuff, having some movement speed off of that is pretty convenient.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
usually
think
my thought.
Taste of Blood and Relentless is fine. Again, it's kind of like that. Like, what am I trying to say here? It's kind of like I'm thinking about how you want to transition that into the mid game. I feel like Taste of Blood
Mm-hmm.
isn't offering you much, but that's, I mean, again, it's fine if you're playing this more lane dominant, poke heavy role. So, anyways, yeah, let's continue. Let's see how
Yeah,
the level one
because
goes.
I often, especially with Diana, I worry about like her just getting juiced up early and then just carrying because it
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot. So actually, one thing actually, even right as
Yeah,
early
go
as
for
this,
it.
I'm wondering. So with this first wave,
Mm-hmm.
should I like how should I know whether or not I should just be like hard pushing it,
Yeah.
or I know probably not hard pushing it the first, but like slow pushing it. Should I
Yep.
just try to hit CS and not move? Should I match my opponent like what they're
Yeah.
doing?
That's a great question, and I was totally gonna throw it your way first to know why. So,
Yeah.
when I play League of Legends, one of the first things I notice is that generally people tend to autopilot and just kind of start autoing the wave, like
Mhm.
without really understanding why. And so, I want to ask you that same question first, just to see what your thoughts
Mhm.
are, and then I can share why I think you should or shouldn't.
Sure. My usual thoughts
Yeah.
is usually about I feel like I want to be like um, almost like one at least this early part. I feel like I'm trying my best to be like one minion or like at least half a minion's HP ahead of my opponent, so that once second wave comes, I just spam hit the first melee minion I can to hit the level 2
Hmm.
before them. That's usually my thought.
Okay.
What that means for the first wave, honestly, I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I feel like it's more
Yeah.
of a, you know,
Yeah,
guess and check.
let's
Uh,
rewind and let's talk it through really quickly, cuz
sure.
one thing that's super important about mid lane is minion behavior and wave state,
hmm
right? So what that means is, do you know, like, well, it sounds like you know when you hit level 2. What about, like, when do you think is Zoe's strong point? Like, where do you need to get to when you're playing Zoe? Are there certain levels? Are there certain abilities you need? Like, how do you know that you should hard shove? Like, do you need a level advantage, or does Diana unlock more if the wave state is on her side, right? Those are things to be
hmm
thinking about. So, for instance, Zoe, right, if we think about it, right now you're super strong, right? You've got that bubble
hmm
Q combo, she can't really jump on you
Yeah.
kind of thing. But Diana
Actually,
at level 3,
one thing I should sorry, one thing. That's one thing. Like, I know for some champs, I don't
yeah.
actually have a perfect understanding of the kit. Like Diana, I
Mm.
actually don't know. Can she jump on me level 1? I actually don't know.
Okay. What ability of Diana do you think is her dash? You don't know. That's okay if you
Uh,
don't know. That's totally
I actually
fine.
don't,
Okay.
I genuinely don't know.
Okay.
All I
So.
know is that I have to get hit by, or she can dash to whatever it has like the light on
Mhm.
it.
So the way Diana works is she has a Q, which is her crescent
Mhm.
skill shot, right? it comes from the right side and goes inward.
Mhm.
That was going to be one of my other questions too, because we didn't get too far, but I was going to ask if you know how to dodge it. The second thing that she has is a W, which is a shield. So what happens is when she activates her W, she gets these three little orbs that surround herself, and when those three orbs pop, if they pop, she gets a shield refresh. So it's almost like a double shield.
Mhm.
Her E is her dash. So it works in the sense what she can do is she can mark you with Q, and if you're
Mhm.
marked, her E resets. So she can actually double dash. So if she Qs and hits you, you probably want to back off. If she Qs and presses E, she has another E immediately.
Mhm.
If she
Mhm.
doesn't hit you with Q, she only gets one E. Did that make sense? Like
Mhm.
as her
So she
base
can still
skill?
dash. She can still dash even if I'm not hit.
Correct.
It's just
That
that
would
when she
be
hits the Q, she gets a reset on E.
correct. If she does not hit the Q and dash, though, she's kind of a sitting egg. So generally,
Mhm.
you won't see Diana's E in without hitting
Unless they hit
Q
the
in
Q
the
first.
lane, right? And R is this AOE pull slow down that pulls. You've seen the R, I'm sure,
Uh
plenty
huh.
of
Uh huh.
times, right? So that's how Diana works. So that's what I was trying to get to is okay. Let's say you are pushing, right? The goal
Mhm.
of pushing would be what here, right? It's one level advantage. Two,
Mhm.
you want to utilize this airy poke that you went with, right? So you're right. You
Yeah.
want to trim this wave so that you can throw Qs at her from a distance, right? Because that's kind of the game you're
Mhm.
playing. But the main thing to consider is that on that third wave, do you know how cannon waves work?
In what sense?
So like what happens if you push the first two waves and then what do you do? What do you do on the cannon wave?
Mm,
That's totally fine. So
not
so
sure.
basically what I'm
Not
trying to
sure.
say is that every third wave actually bounces. And what that means
Yeah.
is
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've
yeah.
heard. I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to consider like if I'm committing to shoving the first two waves, I commit to shoving the cannon wave as well, or do I let it bounce? That's something you have to consider. And
Mm.
what becomes important there is one, if you let it bounce, Diana will hit level 3 first, right? And at level 3, she's
Okay.
incredibly strong. The second thing you
Yeah.
have to consider is if I do let it bounce or don't let it bounce, where are the junglers, right? Because a lot of junglers
Yeah.
now, like, they just clear one side. Like, for example, in Nidalee, especially, she clears one side and then she can gank you from bot side. And that's kind of cheese, right? Like, she just autos you
Mhm.
down, and then you're really in a bad spot, right? So I don't know if that blue ward is actually that your red team, right? So there's a couple
Yeah.
things you want to be thinking about. If you hard shove the first two waves, do I need to consider the enemy jungler's position, right? And
Mhm.
then the other thing to consider is how do I play into the matchup if I am level 2 and she's going to hit level 3. So that'll help you decide like should I hard shove, should I not.
Mhm.
Sometimes, actually a lot of times what I recommend students to do is let that third wave bounce. And the reason for that is it actually gives you a couple things. One, if you hard shove the first two waves, you have some time to actually place a ward at the enemy raids, right? So let's say you hard shove these two waves. You actually have time
Mhm.
to go into the jungle, get a ward down, and see if the jungler is padding there or clears raids. Most junglers clear raids these days. And if you
You're
have that
talking about?
information,
Are you talking about these right here?
yeah.
Right here.
So
Raptors.
if you move your mouse over to the wraith camp, so
Right
that
here. Right.
path right here, anywhere on that ramp leading up to river is usually good to know, and you want to get it as deep as possible.
Yeah.
Um, mhm,
Usually I throw it. Usually, I throw
yeah.
my word. Okay. The center of my screen, wherever my center is, in between the skinny part and the thick part there,
Yeah, you want to
so it
move
gets
your
kind of
mouse.
some
You want to move
river.
your mouse to exactly where you're talking about, so I can see it.
Oh, I didn't realize I could just
Yeah,
hold it right
right.
here.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can get
S
some of here and I get some of river too.
Yeah, so I mean it's not bad. Um, one thing to consider is like also again you have to be thinking about that jungler, right? So
Mm,
how many levels does Nidalee need? Probably level 3, I think, to be useful.
mm,
So she probably wants to clear all 3 of those red camps. I mean, you have the information. She started red, and then you saw her go down to her Krugs. So you know the next thing that she wants to do is probably those raids. Um, it's probably not until much later that you'll see some crazy pathing from junglers because this is very
Mhm.
standard. But if you have that wraith information, you'll see her come over the wall too, and you can kind of assume, okay, I'm gonna let this wave bounce. I'm just gonna wait for my level 3 and back off. So that was
Mhm.
a lot. Did all that make sense? Did all that make sense?
I guess
Yeah.
my question would be then, so let's say
Yeah.
if I word this right,
Yep.
so I see that she's doing her raptors, and
Hmm.
then
So
that,
where would you put the ward? Where do you think is best?
well, I know that I've seen people, at least on blue side, they sometimes word right here. So my guess would be
Okay.
the same on the other side.
No, actually, that's not what I was
No?
trying to
Okay.
suggest. So, if you go back to your original spot, you want to put it a bit further, like into her side. So, like, yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going. No, no, up, and left. Sorry.
Up and left, right like
Yeah,
here?
so closer to there, right? Exactly.
Okay.
Because the other thing that informs your Vi, for instance, is it
Mm-hmm.
tells your Vi, could we make a play invading her blue side if you are pushing, right? Because she could do something similar, for example. So Vi could clear out like 2, 3 camps on her blue side, and if you're
Yeah.
pushing those first 2 waves, you guys can go
Uh,
invade Nidalee's blue side and look for a pick. So it does a few things, right? It tells you the timing, it tells you if you're getting ganked, it informs your jungler, and it helps you decide if you want to push those waves.
I see. Yeah, that's I guess another thing that I feel is just like a knowledge thing that I need to get grasp is
Yeah.
understanding jungle pathing a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something I first, because that I've kind of leaned, because I duo with the friend who plays jungle mainly,
Ah,
and so I've kind his knowledge of jungle has kind of been a crutch for me in terms of like having to understand jungle pathing and whatnot.
I'm
So
guessing you're asking him at this point, right? You're asking
yeah,
him, and
often
is he
that's usually
telling
I'm
you?
like
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think what elo is this around? Did you mention?
It's like gold.
Okay. So generally people in this range are playing pretty standard, right? Like Nidalee
Mhm.
is probably not going to do anything too crazy unless like I mean, so that's probably not the right thing to say. I think Nidalee. So here's the thing, right? Nidalee is a super flexible jungler. Okay,
Mhm.
when she gets to like higher tiers and like higher skill cap levels, like she could go clear out red and invade Vi immediately. Like that's what you
Mhm.
could expect. Like you could see some crazy shit like level 2 ganks and level 2 invades from
Mhm.
Italy's. She has a lot of flexibility. The way I'm suggesting playing right now is into very standard style of play.
Mhm.
And yes, I do want to say you can assume that people at this elo will play standard, but that is a
Yeah.
dangerous assumption to make, right? Like I'm not saying
Mhm.
every game is going to be standard,
Yeah, certainly, but
but
I think obviously,
yeah,
having some rules to at least live
exactly,
by, at least will, like, 70% of the time, that's probably
exactly.
enough for the most part. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all muscle memory and trained behaviors. Because let's say it's not in Italy. Who cares, right? You still
Mhm.
know, based on that information, is this jungler going to gank me? Is she going to cross over? Should we make a play on the opposite side? You get a lot of information from that.
So, in what case would you say that like would make sense when you're saying like you say I word here, right?
Hmm.
What would give me like some indication that, oh, I should tell my jungler, let's look to invade blue side? Like
Yeah.
what kind of like, I guess no, I guess like markers would I be looking for to think, okay, this might be
Hmm.
a good play here?
Yeah. Well, what are things that you guys talk about? What are things that right now your vibe might be communicating with you? Is there any
Hmm.
communication that you guys have in the first few minutes, or
I
is it
will
kind of
I
like
will say
standard? Hmm.
I will say at least this game, this was like a solo queue game.
Yeah. Okay.
But normally
Okay.
normally um hmm
It's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to
yeah,
be for your
normally
duo
normally not
games.
too much. It's like normally not too much discussion early. It might be
Okay.
like if hmm, it's usually just like pointing out like whether or not, for example, me or him sees the jungler anywhere on the map.
Okay.
or
So it's a little reactive,
you know,
right?
yeah, for
So
sure.
so so what I'm encouraging a little bit here is to be more proactive with the play.
Mm-hmm.
And so the invade on blue side is a proactive invade, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
reason I'm suggesting it too is because you have Zoe. And
Mm-hmm.
Zoe, in that once you hit that level 2, level 3 mark, you're really
Yeah,
good at getting like a pick through Fog of War,
yeah.
right? You have shit tons
Mm-hmm.
of range. You can go CC someone very heavily. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like that ability to catch someone out, especially a jungler. Like even if this wasn't an elite, I don't care who. Like let's say it's a Shaco, let's say it's a Jarvan or a Warwick. Like you and
Mm-hmm.
Vi, if you invade that blue side, are probably gonna get a flash at the very least. The
Mm-hmm.
reason too is because in a Diana matchup, I'm actually going to recommend that you don't hard shove that third wave. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because what? Yeah, let's play it out. Let's play it out and
Sure,
see what happens. Because I don't want to get too derailed from what ends up
sure,
happening.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip a little bit. God damn it.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah. So it looks like you kind of opted to keeping it in the middle here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we go back to your question, right? Should I
Mm-hmm.
push? Should I not? In this case, what was the choice that you made, or did you not ask yourself that question? Just curious. Like, how do you think it
Didn't
played
ask
out?
myself.
Okay,
I
got it.
think I think I probably mainly just got scared because you poked me out quite a bit.
Okay,
So yeah.
gotcha. Well, there's two things I probably want to point out. One, Diana has electrocute, right?
Mm,
So
true.
once she uses her combo,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. But
Yeah.
do you know why you died there before we go we get too far into that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Let
Let's
me
play
start
it
back
out.
that way.
Let's go back a little bit and double click
Yeah.
yourself as well. Yep.
So she
Okay.
hits electrocute there. I think she
Yep.
E'd right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
That's
that was
her
her second
second
E,
E. Correct.
and then he ignites, flashes on.
Mm-hmm. But what are you trying to do in that situation?
Let me. So I think I can probably tell you. I think I know what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
I saw that I had barrier, right?
Okay.
So I wanted to use that to try to get some free poking
Okay.
while I had the shield of the barrier.
Okay.
Though, so I kind of walk up here, and
Yeah.
one thing is I didn't realize barrier doesn't last for shit. I could have
Hmm.
sworn barrier lasted longer than that in my head, but it lasted shorter than I thought. So then and then I wasn't mindful of how close she was really.
Hmm.
Um,
Gotcha. Okay.
so she gets the Q on, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the two things to keep in mind, I know you mentioned something about melee matchups earlier on.
Mm,
So melee champions into ranged. Um, the reason you're probably struggling is so for example in this instance what I saw is a little bit of disrespect is because you actually got hit by her Q and then
mm-hmm,
continued to walk into her only because you had a barrier, but you got hit by her Q, right? So what are you trying to
mm-hmm,
accomplish after that, right? Like you kind of have to be cognizant that melee champions are always going to out damage and outstat you, especially in close
mm-hmm,
range, right? So the way to play it perfectly is actually to back off at that moment,
mm-hmm.
right? Because the other thing that's actually really really good for you, and remember I was talking about that blue invade. Look at what your Vi
Yeah.
did. She did exactly that. She invaded
Mm-hmm,
the blue. So imagine, we played it out and we did that 2 level bounce and you went with her, right? That could have been
yeah.
an opportunity. So that's one thing. The second thing here that's really big is your wave is actually in a great spot. Like actually, if you don't touch
Mm-hmm,
this wave, Vi probably clears out that blue side and looks mid for a gank. Like, you have
Yeah.
it set up so well that you're probably going to get Diana Flash at the minimum.
Hmm.
It's very odd that Nidalee's not topside yet. It looks like it took her a very long time. I think she probably ganked bot or something and did scuttle. But in any case, um, you don't want to put yourself in positions where you're this close to a melee matchup ever,
Yeah.
especially ranged into melee. That applies to like any matchup that you're playing. Ari into Talon, what else? Zoe into Zed. Any of that, you
Hmm.
never want to be close enough that you're in this situation.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, if anything, I could have just waited out
Mm-hmm.
for her the the light from the Q
Yep.
to fade away, and I still would have probably had barrier by then,
Yeah.
if
And
anything.
and and and, and again, like you went the airy builds, right? So
Hmm.
you're trying to do this like pseudo, hey, if she dashes into me and I bury her or bait her and then kill her, like it's probably
Hmm.
not going to work because the other thing is you have so many blue minions in front of you. So I don't know
Hmm.
how good you are at Zoe, but unless you curve that Q, I mean that's a freaking
Oh
hard,
yeah, yeah.
that's a hard skill shot, man. I mean in general, right? That's a hard skill shot. So I would say that your odds of something good coming out of that position are less, right? And you want to
Hmm.
constantly be asking yourself that question. It's like, okay, if I do this, what are my chances, or what is the potential outcome, right? You kind of have to do that evaluation, which is why it gets pretty hard. Anyway, go ahead and press play. I just wanted to call that out. Okay, so you died. That's okay. What are you thinking now? Like, what is your plan now? What did you buy? What are you looking at?
So what did I first?
You got
I think I
boots
just
and an
got
amp tome.
boots. Yeah, so here I got boots because it would possibly help me dodge Diana Q a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, and then boots because or not boots, amp tome because I do have mana flow to help with mana, so and
Yeah,
it would help with the poking a little bit, the trades.
yeah,
So that's usually what's where
yeah.
I
Do
went
you
with
know
that.
how to dodge Diana Qs? That was one thing I wanted to talk about
I'll tell
earlier.
you this.
Yeah,
My understanding is different from my actual playing of it.
execution. Yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, my understanding is either I can walk towards her, or I can walk to how to say it. Like, if she does the cue like this, either I walk this way or I walk this way. That
So
would be my understanding.
so actually, it's very unintuitive. So from this angle, right? You basically
Yeah,
pointed forward or left, and actually, the best way to dodge her Q is to go to the right. Do you know
to the
why?
right.
Yeah,
No idea.
to the outside of the crescent, right? Because if you think about where the Diana user is clicking, it's probably in front of her or to the left of her because it's a crescent. So she's not going to be able to predict the outside of the curve. So it's actually
Hmm.
hard to conceptualize, but it's like
Interesting.
it's counterintuitive is what I'm trying to say. Your
Sure.
intuition wants to tell you to go in, but she can actually curve in. She can curve to the left, which is where you're moving, but she can't control to the right unless it's a really bad cue. So I actually recommend when you're playing against Diana to stand to the
Hmm.
outside of her skill shot, because the other thing that means is you don't want her to be able to control the wave with that Q, right? So if we go
Hmm.
back to kind of the early phases of this laning, one thing I notice is that you're generally standing within your minions,
Yeah, which
and that
probably isn't
actually
good
benefits
for her
Diana
too.
greatly,
Yeah,
right?
because she can just jump onto minions, right? And
She
then
can, there's two
start
things,
attacking
right?
them.
One, remember how her W works? She gets a reset if she pops all of
Yeah.
them. So the minions actually help her
Well, I
W
should I
reset.
should actually ask. I don't actually know how does she get the popping?
Yeah, so if you go, let's hover Diana for a second. If you can double click her, I think maybe you have to open or select the champion.
I can
Yeah,
do
let's
this.
just do select Diana. Okay, so hover her W.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she'll create these like three little orbs that circle her. and each one pops when it hits a target.
Mm-hmm.
So if all three of them pop, it gets a reset. So for instance, like if she's going into the wave and she's already got 3 orbs, chances are she's most likely going to get that reset. So
Gotcha.
one thing to consider is not just to dodge the Qs, but to make sure you're forcing her to use that Q on either you or the wave. So by standing on the outside of the skill shot, you're
Not
actually
both.
one, preventing the easy reset, and two, you're actually going to increase your chances of dodging her Qs. Did all that make sense?
Okay.
It was kind of,
Wait, say the last
yeah.
part again. Say the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
part
yeah.
again.
So let's rewind, and maybe I can explain when it's
Sure.
happening, and I can show you. So if you go back to during the laning phase, let's look at your positioning. For instance, keep going back. We want to get as much of it as possible. Yeah. Um. Oh.
Damn it.
Let's go all the way to like 2 minutes or something. Let's just make it really
Yes.
simple. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so look at your positioning, right? What was I just saying around the Q? Do you see how her Q
Yeah.
goes to the right and then curves back in? Right now, what are you giving her? You're giving her the perfect position to shoot her Q.
Camera. Do you know there's a way to lock the camera onto me?
Let's see.
Oh wait. Are you okay? No.
I think if
Wait,
you
let me
just
right there.
select, it should do it. That's weird. I don't know why it's bouncing. So right now, right, by standing in the minions, her skill shot, her mouse is going to be pointed toward. You see how it goes from the right to the left?
Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
aiming at the left. So actually, you're making it harder for yourself to dodge. Whereas where I want you to stand, if you pause for a moment, is right there. That's where I want you to be standing.
So he's saying I should stand like if Diana is here,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I make a line from wherever she's standing, I should always want to stand on this side of this
Exactly. You
line
want to
if I were
make
to
it as
make it.
hard as possible for her to optimize those skill shots, and you want to stand on that side.
Gotcha.
Yeah, did that make
Okay.
sense? Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
drawing out her Q, you should play Diana
Mm-hmm.
once, and it'll help. It'll help you see how hard those Qs are.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So like anytime as she's moving more to the right, I should probably lean more to the right as well, kind of to match
You
it sometimes.
can, but you have to be cognizant of junglers in that case. You
Yeah.
don't want to set
Yeah.
yourself up. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to make it difficult. Yeah.
Okay.
Because in League 2, like one of the things that happens is there's a bit of a dance, right? You guys move kind of to the opposite sides of the waves, right? Like if
Yeah.
Diana moves right, you're going to move left. If she moves left, you're going to move right. But you should
Mm-hmm.
play that to your advantage, you know? Like you
Yeah.
know that that's the habit. Let's flip it. Let's do the opposite of what they expect, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it much harder for her to hit her skill shots.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully that was a helpful tip. It's not just
Yeah.
for like Diana, it's for any champion matchup. You always want
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that like you're making your opponent think. Like you're forcing them
Yeah.
where to use their skill shot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it happens to me. I mean, I start just like tilting once, like if I'm playing Nico, especially like as support,
Yeah.
like when they're ADC, just some of them, I don't think they should be in gold because their movement is just nuts. Like I'm like, there's no way, like there's no way. I played against one Ash, like just the least amount of movement possible, and she just dodges everything. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many layers we could add on. One is like,
Yeah.
do you know what tethering is?
I've heard of the word,
Yeah.
but I don't know what it is.
So it's a very reactive stutter step. So, for instance, right now, you're actually outside of range of Diana Q. And you want to
Yeah.
dance that edge, like, of the range of her Q. And you want to react to her movements. So, tethering is this ability to keep your opponent at distance outside of their max ability range.
Mm. Okay, so kind of, if I like, made like a rope that
Yeah.
was slightly longer than her queue,
Yeah.
I want to basically act like I'm being pulled and pushed as she's
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
going. Yeah.
So playing on that edge is really good, especially because you're Zoe. Your range is so much greater
Farther than
than her
hers. Yeah.
Q. If you're able to kind of like when she walks up to you, walk out of her range, that's something you want to practice. Um,
Hmm.
And again, it's matchup agnostic, meaning like any matchup you go into, it's really important to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing is making sure that you're making your opponent decide, do I want to use my skill shot on the wave or the champion?
Mm-hmm.
Your position will help them decide. Right now, it's too juicy. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, one thing I also notice is
Mm-hmm.
during that trade, even though I feel like I get damage off, I do lose cannon there. So that's something that I'm.
You don't lose anything yet.
Wait, no, wait, I'm tripping. Wait, no, no, I'm totally tripping because I looked at the red. I made her lose cannon actually. So if anything, it was good.
Yeah, I didn't actually notice if she got the cannon, but one of those things that
I
did
don't
happen
believe
is
so.
she hit you and the wave, which is why it got pushed in.
Mm.
And that's what you don't want to let her do. Yeah. Your
So,
Vi actually looked very
oh,
gank there.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I must have
Here
missed
you
that the first time. No.
go. Here, get gritty. Yeah, again. Yeah, I walked in wall. Yeah, that's my bad. Yeah, that's it. Hmm. Okay. Let's skip forward a little bit till I'm back.
It's actually not all terrible. She actually left you with a pretty good wave state, which is kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
It's
like look
frozen
at
right there.
I mean that's
Pretty
pretty.
good.
It's bouncing back. It is bouncing back though. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
the worst though. You could slow push this. It looks like you chose to fast push it though.
Mhm.
Or you're sort of fast pushing. Yeah. Okay. So remember the question I was asking you about like knowing what cannon waves do?
Yeah.
Um, what did you choose to do with this wave? Do you ask yourself that question when you're in the game?
Depends sometimes.
Okay.
So like for example, um like if I feel like I know I want to do something soon, I think that usually causes my self to think about like what I want to do.
I see.
Like I don't think I'm like super cognizant of like each wave when it comes in. Okay, what do I want to
Okay.
do with this wave? It's more like, is there something I feel like I want to do? What should I do with the wave to let myself do that type of thing?
Okay. I mean
Like
I
for
think
example,
that's fine to some extent. Um the the main thing I actually want to emphasize is that especially in mid lane, you kind of want to be asking yourself that question as frequently as you can because I
mhm,
see a couple of options that you could have done if you had committed to the bounce. Um, do you know what? Maybe you know what I'm referring to here, but let's see if you can think about
you're
what I was
saying
trying to say. Yeah, go ahead.
you're saying committing to the bounce,
Yeah.
as in
So when I initially looked at the wave, let's rewind.
rewind, right?
Actually,
Okay.
I thought Diana didn't crash it, but I was wrong. She did crash it. So when you died, right? When you
Further
died,
back or
yeah, yeah, back here. So I actually
let's
didn't
push
see
this
that she
one.
crashed it. She did crash it. So what does that
Okay.
mean is gonna happen now?
That means that my wave will push back towards her
Right,
side, right?
and there's one other important element. You're gonna be on the field before Diana, right? And what does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? That means you have tempo. Do you know what tempo
Yeah.
is?
Um, yeah, it's my understanding it's kind of
Yeah,
in a sense like an advantage in terms of time or things I can do.
right.
Like like for example, I have time to I don't know, let's say like walk down,
Hmm.
maybe drop a ward while I'm working with the wave and stuff. Like
Yeah,
I can do
exactly.
one extra action, at the moment.
Yeah,
Whereas Diana
basically.
has to just run as fast as she
Mhm.
can back to the
Basically,
wave.
it means if there's a play, you'll be there first.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or this is actually a really good opportunity to set up a roam. So people often
Hmm.
ask me like, when should I roam, right? Like that's a question
Hmm.
a lot, right now. So knowing that you're, I mean, not so in the game, you probably didn't know that your wave was going to bounce, but now that you know your wave is going to bounce, what does that open up for you? Like, what would you do if you know that your wave is bouncing?
Hmm.
Yeah. So
I would.
it's a different question. So
Mhm.
actually, what I would
Yeah.
recommend, if your wave is bouncing, and you know you're gonna have tempo, I would hard shove this, like hard
Hmm.
shove this into her tower. Two things that does. One, it forces Diana to catch it or miss
Yeah.
some CS, which she will. The second thing it opens up is for you to evaluate what are the plays I can make at this time.
Hmm.
Right? So now that you've pushed it in, check out top. Like it looks like top is
Hmm.
actually pushing into Atrax. So you could push this shit out and go roam top and look for a play there.
Yeah. Another
But
thing about something I actually didn't think about much was the idea that and you know, looking not just at kind of what let's say the two top laners are doing, but also looking at their waves themselves to
mm-hmm,
see possibly, is Riven's wave going to be pushing towards tower? Like, should I expect her to be kind of pushing up here
yeah,
soon within the next 5-10 seconds? So
mm-hmm,
that gives me like a kind of timer of, if I make my way up there,
mm-hmm,
I might be able to match the timing of when she's kind of pushing up to be
right.
able to make a play.
The other thing that I want to mention in these instances, let's say top isn't pushing, right?
Hmm.
The other thing is actually thinking back to that jungle matchup, right?
Hmm.
So, what did you know about Nidalee's pathing? You actually saw that she pathed upward in this instance. And if you think about the timing of it, right? She cleared bot side first. 3:30 the scuttle
Hmm.
spawns. What is her natural next step? It's to go top side, right? So,
Yeah.
you could also get some deep vision on the top side, which actually you already have, which is great. But if you didn't have it, this is an opportunity to get some. The other thing you could do is look for some damage on Nidalee. Mess her up. Screw her timing up. Get your Vi an advantage. Or ping your
Hmm.
Vi. Let's go invade topside again, right? Because, like,
Hmm.
you know that Nidalee's doing bot to top, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And one thing to know is, like, especially in mid lane, being cognizant that your junglers usually mirror each other. So, like, what that means is like once they've done one clear, they're probably just
Uh-huh.
circle rinsing and repeating their camps,
But
unless
I
they're
do need to
losing
be
lots.
cognizant of which side they start, though, right?
Yes, you should be cognizant of which side they start. I think like here's the thing, right? You wanna make the best educated assumption. So it's safe to note and maybe even guess that like, hey, on the second spawn of red, Nidalee is going to be on that side of the map, right? Because she started red.
Hmm.
Do you know how often red and blue respawn?
No, but there's a timer, no?
Yeah,
Like
so
where
it's
like
five
where like drag
minutes.
timers are. Okay,
Yeah, so
that's
it's
what I
five
thought. Okay.
minutes, right? So knowing that, like you can kind of plan ahead of that, right?
Hmm.
So you know right now she's probably topside. Okay. So you really have to think about like how is Nidalee cycling through her camps, and is there anything I could do about it? Especially as Zoe, I would actually say that there is.
Hmm.
There is another option. You could just do what you did, where you stayed in the lane, kind of push it out, and look for chip damage on Diana now because one,
Hmm.
she doesn't have flash, and two, you have a cannon wave crashing into her. That's a great time to get a shit ton of poke in. So
Hmm.
what I'm trying to do is not overwhelm you, but it's the idea that when you play mid and when you're playing like, this really uh, information heavy lane,
Yeah.
you have a lot of options and you want to be thinking about those options rather than just, oh, how do I kill this person, or how do I get more damage on this person, or how do I win lane. It's like it's not just about winning the lane anymore, right? It's like, what are parts of the map that I can impact, because mid and jungle have the most agency apart from support around the map. Like, you guys control the map, right? So how do I utilize that to my advantage?
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sorry, I was just
Okay.
did you?
Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
sorry. Did
Cool.
you
No.
hear my yes?
Oh yeah. No, I didn't. Anyways, yeah, we can continue. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I said yeah. I couldn't tell if you muted your mic or something.
Oh no, I didn't hear you. No, you're good. Cool. You can press play.
Okay.
So
Sure.
basically, the questions I want you to continuously ask yourself when you're playing mid is really just, what's happening to this wave, and what are the options that I have in this moment. Should I roam? Should I get vision? Should I go look for chip damage? There are also a couple of important timers I want to throw your way. The main one being, do you know when mid lane hits level 6?
The time? No.
Okay. It's usually around 6 minutes. And the
Okay.
reason that is because 9 waves have passed at that time. So each wave, and you don't need to know these details, but they exist. So each wave spawns every 30 seconds, and then it takes about 25 seconds for it to get to the middle of the lane. So at wave 9, you're going to be hitting that level 6, whether that's 5:30, whether that's 6 minutes. It's in between 5:30 and 6 minutes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so knowing that, Diana's level 6 is crazy strong, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of rough now, huh? So, how do you think you get back in this game? What should you do here?
My thought would be to probably try to do my best to one, not die, and one, keep her in lane as much as possible. Not let her roam and make too much of an impact when she hits 6.
Okay.
Because that would be my general thoughts. But also, yeah, no, that would be my thoughts.
Yeah. How would you go about doing that? Like, how do you keep her there? Like, what are your options? What can you do to keep her there?
My general thoughts would be, I would probably mostly do with wave management. Um, uh, when
No, that's fine. I think that's the main thing, right? Right now, you're playing the wave catching game, but you want to make sure that it's not in a way that you're completely useless, right? So
yeah,
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, try to keep the wave at arm's length. One, you have to be tethering her because she's about to hit level 6 on this wave. And two, you don't want it to just shove into your tower, right? So, one thing here, you kind of do have to play as far back as you're playing, but I would be aiming my skill shots only at the wave, because, like, you want to make sure that's as trim as possible, so that at least if there were to be a play, you're not completely, like, hopeless, you know? The other thing I wanted to mention, actually, is your ward placement. Where did you put your ward down?
I don't even think I worded this time. Honestly, it's probably 50-50 whether or not I'm cognizant of.
Yeah. So
wording.
if we go back again, remember your wave was pushing out towards Diana. If you
Yeah.
remember that bounce, that is a great opportunity to ward one side. And what I mean by that is, you warded the.
Oh wait, I
lead
worded
bush,
right there. Actually,
right?
I did word right there.
But
I think I did. Yeah.
how would you rate that ward on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, is it good, bad? Yeah.
A 2 or a 3.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think what was I think? I think
Yeah.
I think I, for some reason, was just worried about Italy for some reason. I don't know
Okay.
why, but
Okay.
I think something probably happened that just made me worry about Italy for some reason, being close. So
Sure.
that just happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of brings me back to those jungle timers, right? And how they're cycling
Yeah.
through their camps. It's been
Hmm.
about 4 minutes, you know?
Hmm.
It's been about 4 minutes into the game. Where do you think Italy is around 4 minutes? Probably bot side because she started bot side. But
Hmm.
you had a little bit of time when the wave was bouncing to go
Yeah.
put a ward in that pixel brush. Do you know what I mean by pixel brush when I say that?
This guy right here.
You
Yeah.
could do
Or
that
which
one
one?
or that one. Either one. Either one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fault
Mhm.
you for doing either. If, if you're playing perfectly at a high level, you would do the bot pixel brush. And the other reason to do the bot pixel brush is actually generally
Drag it soon.
yeah, two things. Dragon control, dragon zone, and mid laners always look bot, right? That's the side you want to make
Hmm.
plays on. Who really cares about top side, right? Top is an island. But if Diana's ahead of you and she's stronger than you, she's 100% looking at bot lane because she has a pantheon and dragon control. Two reasons mid
Hmm.
laners want to go bot is because most of your team is there. Just a numbers
Hmm.
game, right? You got two people bot. You want to get both of those people fed.
Hmm.
So by putting the ward in the pixel brush bot side, if you get into a situation where you're helpless and you can't do anything, at least you give your team that vision.
Hmm.
I wanted to emphasize that because I did see you ward that river brush, which actually doesn't give
Yeah.
you any information that's
Yeah.
helpful.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Is this helpful? Like it's a lot of
Yeah.
information, but it's
Yeah.
really
No. No.
around like
That's. I mean, that's the stuff. That's really the stuff I'm trying to understand is like the
yeah,
decision making. Like, because that's where I know. Like, I know I shouldn't be autopiloting, but
yeah,
my issue is I don't know what things to be doing instead of it
right.
at times. Right.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
and
Like
that's
sometimes I
what
just find myself walking around and I'm like, I know I should. There's something I can be proactively doing, but I don't know what that is.
right.
It's kind of.
That's exactly what I'm trying to emphasize is all these options are things that you want to be thinking about. Even if you're not thinking about all of the things I'm throwing at you, it's mostly like what are the high value things that I should be thinking about? One, vision. Two, lanes. What should I be pushing? Should I not? Should I be calling for roams? Should I be protecting my side lanes? Like all of those things are questions that you want to be asking yourself. And that doesn't even count like the fact that you have a laner in front of you, right? Like it's so much
Mhm.
information, man. Mid lane is a party. Oh,
Yeah, I got greedy for Can, or
yeah.
was it Canada? I think it was. Yeah.
It was, and the reality is actually that cannon would have survived if you let it continue pushing into you. So that's unfortunate.
Hmm.
It's a little bit of wave behavior that you gotta understand. It takes
Yeah.
time.
And then I lose a fuck ton
Yeah,
of CS here and XP.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy that the blue team doesn't get dragon. I don't know. It's so interesting. Italy's doing some
Oh no,
weird
they're
stuff.
gonna.
Your team,
Oh, that's
your
us.
team
Wait,
gets
that's
it.
us.
Yeah,
Nah, I
yeah.
keep thinking I'm blue, man. I don't know why.
Interesting. Oh, looks like you're pushing this back out into her. So yeah. So yeah, I mean I'm seeing the same thing over and over, right? It's like why are you pushing right here?
Hmm.
Um this is actually a really bad push because Diana has ignite again, right? So the other
Hmm.
thing to be cognizant of is she ignited you on the first kill, which was
Yeah.
like 4 minutes ago now. Her ignite's coming back up, and you kind of pseudo push the wave back into her. So if
Yeah.
she was smart, she actually would have froze that and looked for another kill on you, or roamed
Hmm.
for this bot play. But it looks like she kind of didn't notice.
So I guess one thing I didn't think was so.
Yeah.
Let's say that wave, right? So
Mhm.
if I were to think about like not just that, so right here.
Yep.
So if I just basically just held it here, right?
Mhm.
Next wave is just another normal wave.
Mhm. But
So
but what's the benefit of holding it there? What do you think? You need to give your jungler opportunities to help you, right? Like if your jungler is
Mm-hmm.
playing that way, if you hold the
Yeah.
wave on your side, you're giving them opportunities to come influence your lane. The other thing is, and this probably takes a lot of awareness. It's not easy. Pike, you have a Pike, right? Like Pike loves to roam. And actually right now he should not be bought. And that's not I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
saying it's his
yeah. Not
fault.
in this elo. Not in this elo. Pikes don't like to run with this elo. I tell you that much.
I'm just saying it is a good habit to practice
Yeah.
to create those
Hmm.
opportunities so that maybe one game your Pike sees that, your wave is on your side and
Yeah.
he does roam, and then it pays
Hmm.
off, right? Like all that practice and setting up waves and understanding all
Well,
that.
one thing I would be thinking about. So
Mm-hmm.
if I am holding this, I'm trying to think about like uh what would happen to the next two waves. So if I'm
Sure.
just trying to CS this, that means that probably like maybe have a couple minions left by the time I kill his. So there's maybe like 2 or 3 minions left. And then this wave will probably get, and I'll probably, at what point would I probably they hit each other? Somewhere in the middle, I'm guessing.
Well, if you freeze it perfectly, it's going to sit there for a little while. It might require taking a little damage, and that's okay. But let's assume a non-perfect freeze, right? Let's say you trim it a little bit. It'll meet in the
Hmm.
middle, Do you know how many
Hmm.
waves, cannon waves spawn? It's every third wave.
Yeah, yeah, every third. Yeah.
Yeah,
So then that's the second wave. So if I was holding this a little bit, maybe it meets around somewhere here,
yeah.
the second one.
Hmm.
So then there, it's a little bit, it's not down here, it's up here. So I can probably, I'm a little bit safer to be able to CS than this second wave once Diana's probably going to be there at the same time as it.
Yeah, what did you buy?
So
What did she buy? What are your items at?
I've lost chapter, she has blasting.
Okay. One thing I would recommend, actually, if you are pretty far behind, um, something that would help, and this is just something you have to try, is buying tier 2 boots. Let's say
Yeah, I
you
sometimes
went,
do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice. So let's say you went for like, I don't know. I mean, your instincts are probably telling you want Sork boots, but actually, like a Merc Treads would be super nice here.
Hmm.
Merc Treads into Diana in Italy, it gives you that little MR boost, Even buying just like a null magic mantle, totally fine. Just to get you some of that
Yeah, I do see some
resistances.
people
Yeah.
like at least high low, like they'll sometimes like
Yeah.
buy that if they're a little ahead.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Instead of rushing for your chapter. I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
chapter is bad. The reason I'm
Hmm.
saying that is because the tethering's not there, right? It's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so Diana can jump on you. And so if you got those tier 2 boots, it gives you a little bit more of an edge of maybe you can keep
Hmm.
some more distance or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
At least I'd probably be a little bit safer to be able to get my CS because I'm probably not going to be able to look for killing her for the
Yeah, I
most
think that
part.
part is long
So
gone at this stage, but
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but also they have double AP junglers. They have Nidalee and they have
Hmm.
Diana. So that
Hmm.
MR is actually really nice if Nidalee ever decided to gank you, for instance. She actually
Hmm.
hasn't bought yet, and it's been 5.5 minutes. It's kind of confusing, but anywho, um, I want to stop there. I know there's a lot more game left, but I wanted to, we
Okay.
talked about a lot of stuff, and I wanted to make sure that,
Hmm.
like, that made sense. We can always meet
Yeah.
again sometime. But do you have any other
Hmm.
questions? Did things make sense so far?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
overall, and so one thing I guess would be when so I know you said to ward around, you said what was it, like around here, right?
Yeah.
On this side. What about when I should be warding on top side? Or should
When
I
or
even really be
where?
worrying about
When or
where
where?
and when? Where
Yeah.
and when?
Yeah. Part of that is okay. So part of that is knowing where the jungler would want to start, right? So that's like level one.
Hmm.
Um, Generally speaking, if you are on blue side, you kind of
Hmm.
want to ward where Nidalee is standing right now. Maybe a little bit to the left of that is fine too. Yeah,
Here-ish.
yeah. As far as up as you can get, really, in that
What do you mean far
area.
as oh okay, because I was on blue side. Okay, over
Yeah,
here.
because you're
Okay.
on blue side.
Okay. So you're okay. So just
There's
really the
two,
opposite side, really.
yeah, there's two
Right about
reasons
that.
for that. Is because if the jungler goes around it, you know that they're going to the red and Krugs. But if they go
Yeah.
through it, there's a potential that they're looking for an invade. So it kind of gives you that dual level of information, and it
Yeah.
also informs you how you want to play your level 2 and level 3.
Hmm.
Because like I said, that third wave does bounce, so you want to put a lot of emphasis on that.
Hmm. And I forgot, what was the timer on when we should be looking for this word? This first one here.
It's conditional. It's not
Hmm.
so much timer, because sometimes junglers can do red to raids, right?
Hmm.
So you want to
Okay.
take a peek based on how fast you're able to push. So basically, what you need to
Gotcha.
decide is, I'm gonna hard shove, then I'm gonna go look at raids, right? Those two things need to happen before throwing down the ward. Because
Gotcha.
if the jungler has already done raids, I wouldn't ward that, right? Then I would
Hmm.
actually ward the opposite pixel brush.
This one over here.
Yeah, because that means they've already crossed
Gotcha.
over.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's a because I don't know. I've heard people sometimes say at like I think it's about like 2.5 minutes. People say the word.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I've
there's
heard
a
that
science
time
to
as
it,
well.
man. But like, honestly, there's variety, right? First, you need
Hmm.
to be able to get there. Then you need to be able to get the push. You have to be able to
Yeah.
have time to walk there. You have to know
Yeah.
what type of jungler it is, right? Like, there's all these layers that you want to
Uh,
add on. You don't want to just blindly do at a certain time, right?
yeah.
Because if it's like a Jarvan, I would ward before even the lane starts. But if
Hmm.
it's something like a Kane, I'm not as worried, right? If it's a Lee
Hmm.
Sin, I'm worried. If it's like, it depends on the jungler too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I have actually. There's one thing
Yeah.
I'm just like. It's separate from this. It's me and my friend last night. We were playing a game,
Uh huh.
and we were in a very, very heated argument, and he was basically screaming by the end of it because of how much we disagreed. Um, can I ask you to just look at this one game? I was playing support, but it's just more of a general. It was something around
Yeah.
like
You want to give
dragon and
me
stuff.
2 minutes? I will be right back, and
Sure,
then you can
sure.
pull it
I'll
up in
set
the
it up. I'll
meantime.
set it up real quick. Yeah.